Hypocrisy, thy name is Lachlan. Today, let's put it bluntly, today was a fucking shit show. Today was absolute motherfucking carnage for me, and honestly one of the worst and hardest days I've had as a man, as a father, especially doing something like this in a long motherfucking time. Today I was downright disgusted with myself. And it was all my fault. And we'll see how well this this episode even goes, because my brain is not on its best form. For whatever reason, sleep has especially eluded me this last week or so. Could be a come down of all the stresses that have been going on. I feel like it's something physiological, but for whatever reason, I have not been handling sleep well. And I'm exhausted and I'm struggling, and to the point where my level to handle shit at the moment, today especially, was at its lowest ebb. Like, it was phenomenal how poor it was today. And within that, it meant, I was looking after my kids. And for those of you who have children, there are days where it's just fucked. Like, they are, like, we can barely, this point proven, we can barely handle our own emotions. And we are adults with fully developed brains and understanding and cognitive processing, and we can barely pull it together sometimes to look after our own emotions. Imagine being 2 or 3 where the world is scary and full on and everything is a trauma and a meltdown, and you're learning to process that stuff. It's no wonder they have meltdowns and tantrums, and the world is ending and every little thing is a giant fucking ordeal. And today I snapped and I yelled at my babies, especially my daughter, for throwing one too many tantrums. And in that moment, as I do that, I am processing it and going, this is not her fault. This is your fucking fault. This is your problem. You are the one to blame. And yet I couldn't stop it. And once I'd calmed enough, frustratingly enough, like 30 seconds later, I could take a step back and go, nope, this was your fault. I had to apologize to my daughter. I had to take ownership of that, and take ownership that this was my fault, that it is never acceptable for someone to yell at her, no matter what had happened, and my emotions were not her fault. My breakdown was not her fault. And it is never her responsibility to deal with someone else's emotions. And yet that's where I was. And it gave me time to reflect on this life, and this life I've lived, and where I'm at this point. And there has been many, many hypocrisies across this journey as we've reached this point. As I said to you many times, I feel this is what I was called to do. I was put on this earth to lead men, to lead fathers, to become the best and greatest versions of themselves. And a lot of that starts with health and fitness. I have been in the health and fitness game officially since I was 17, so 15 odd years. Unofficially for longer, but I've been qualified and licensed for 15 years. I have run my own personal training studio for 11 years. I have experience in this field. I've been doing this a very long time. And yet, during this process and reaching this point, I have been the height of hypocrisy more times than I'd care to admit. you know. And a lot of people think that being in shape is just exercise and eating a little bit better. But that's not exactly true. So when I entered college at about 18, I went across to America to play college basketball. I received nearly a full ride to play over in America. Dream come true, right? I rock up there. I'm 110 kilos at 5'10" of just pudge. Just straight up pudge. And yet I was in incredible shape. I could run all fucking day. I was there to be a collegiate athlete. During that time, I'd played for New South Wales. I'd play reps. I'd played at some of the highest levels within Australia. And yet I'd shown up to college horrendously overweight. And within that first year, I went from 110 kilos down to 67 kilos. I went from being horrendously overweight to honestly too skinny. Like, I was just skin and bones kind of thing. And unfortunately, there have been cycles of this. You know, on the first iteration of 126 to Greatness, I lost 33 kilos. Because again, hypocrisy. Thy name is Lachlan. I'd lost my way again. I'd lost who I was. And I was still training people. I was still coaching and leading people and was telling them what to eat and what to exercise and how to do it. And because I was still strong, I was still fit, I thought I could get away with that. And it's just the height of living in incongruency. And this is the problem. And I think this is linked to the point when you're out of alignment with who you should be. You're out of alignment with how you should be living your life. And I do firmly believe that that was a large portion of the problem. That I'd lost that North Star, that guiding light, that this is what I am doing it for. I'd lost that point. And so I could lie to myself because, yeah, I was big, I was fit. You know, I'm someone who, at this point, as you can tell, like I still sit reasonably comfortably at 100 kilos, can carry some muscle reasonably well and some size reasonably well. And so I would just make up bullshit stories about it all. That, oh yeah, I was still in shape. It was fine. I was bulking. It was bulking season. Oh, that was my favorite one. The honest truth was I was just eating like a jackass. I was eating the shit that I knew I shouldn't do. I was doing the shit I knew I shouldn't do because I didn't have a purpose. I didn't have a reason. And as I've told you before, my wake-up call was across different stages. But the number one was my daughter's first birthday party, then followed by my 30th. And going, what the fuck am I doing with my life? And seeing the joy in her little face and lighting up and going, I want to be here for as long as humanly possible. I want to live to be, and people always laugh, but it's true, I want to live to be 120 so I can meet my grandkids and my great-grandkids and maybe my great-great-great-grandkids. I want to live this life to the fullest for as long as possible and leave a legacy that will be remembered. And my kids are a massive part of that component. And that's one of the signs when I had to wake up. But when you are so close to the situation, as it was today, when you're in the heat of the moment, and what I have found, and I see it with others, the heat of the moment can last for as long as your willingness to not face the situation is there. And, you know, even as I say this, I'm realizing another situation that I don't want to face and I'm going to have to. And that's a story for another fucking day. But it follows along on this, that because I don't want to face it, it cannot get resolved. While you're in this heat at the moment, it cannot get resolved. And that's the problem with it. And so I went through 126 and I fucking crushed it. And I came out in literally, at 30, in the best shape of my entire life. I'd been a collegiate athlete. I'd attempted to go pro. I'd attempted to be a bodybuilder. I'd done all these other things. And here I was as a 30-year-old dad of two, well, dad of one at that point, and about to become dad of two, in the best fucking shape of my entire life. And then I was in the thick of it again. And life happened. And for those who've been following along and know, my son was born over 8 weeks early. And my son and my wife spent the first 6 months of his life in the hospital in Westmead, which is like 2 hours from where we live. And I was suddenly a single parent. And that was a hell of a life shock. So things started to slip then. And then I had a guy who was running my gym. He left. And suddenly I'm thrown back into working 40 plus hours a week on the gym floor. And so things started to slip. And once again, I'd lost that guiding light, that North Star, that thing that was directing me to why I do this and what I should be doing and how I should be doing it. And it took another wake-up call. And what I have found is the universe starts gentle, and if you don't start fucking listening, it starts smacking you across the head. And then if you don't listen then, it'll move on, and it'll take those dreams to other people. So thankfully, I woke the fuck up, and I realized that something had to change, that what I'm doing is a shadow career, that what I'm doing is not living my best life, that I am not living the life that I have been called to lead, basically. And I needed to change. I needed to step the fuck up and do what had to be done. So I started again, and I'm here, and I'm about to finish 126 to Greatness, the comeback tour. And it was really eye-opening, this whole process, and especially doing it full-blown in the trenches, not just, doing the work when I had to work from home and everything was on my time and my dime. Now I had other people's time frames to work around. I have 2 kids, not one. I have clients that depend on me and hours that had to be filled. And it tested me in a whole different level. And it was really, really eye-opening and awakening to go through that. And I think that's part of what needed to happen. That, again, when you can step back and actually look at everything that's happened in retrospect, out of the moment, you go, okay, this is what I needed to do for this moment. This is what needed to be done for me to reach this point. That everything was working out for my highest good. I was stepping into this highest timeline, that I was progressing into the best version of me. But I had to go through these trials and tribulations. I had to go through the darkness to come out the other side. And though that was an awful experience, though going backwards from being that best shape of my life to feeling like I was truly in control, that I was stepping into everything that I was meant to be, to losing all that and having to start again, I had to lose all that to go through this, to realize who I needed to become, what I needed to learn, and the lessons that needed to come from this. Because this is difficult. This is extremely fucking difficult, and only the rare few can actually do this. But I also needed to appreciate it from the point of view of doing it from someone who doesn't have time to dictate as they see fit. Now I get up at 5 a.m. and I work out at 6 a.m. every day, and I get my walks in, hopefully during my lunch break, but sometimes at middle of the night, because that's how shit works out. but life happens for a reason. And the more you can step back from being in that moment to actually being aware, when you're not stuck in right here, right now, the heat of the moment, and you actually take it into perspective, so you can, take that bird's eye view, pull yourself out of the situation and look at it with understanding, with comprehension, with this true idea of where you want to be, what emotions are playing out in this moment, and what would be a better use of this time. I think that's a great skill that we could all learn. And I know that was a long and abstract way to get to that point, but I think in all moments in our lives, we need to take the ability to take a step back and actually look at where we are, what we're doing, and if what we are doing is fueled by emotion, is fueled by subconscious patterning, is fueled by habits. And if any of those, or all of those, are actually serving our highest good. And I have a feeling that more often than not, the answer will be a no. And not just no, a resounding fucking no. And in those moments, we can take a step back and we can take stock and go, okay, what I am doing isn't conscious. What I am doing isn't serving me. So what do I need to change right here, right now, to make it serve me, to serve my highest good? And from there, we can now start making those changes towards being the best version of ourselves, to being the greatest husband, man, and father that we were meant to be. So that's all I have for you right now. And, I'm going to leave you with standard platitudes. If this served you, if you found value in it, if something spoke to you, please like, comment, subscribe, join the movement, help me grow the greatness movement, and share it with someone who else will serve it. If you want to take the next step, please click the link in my bio and join the Daily Greatness Mail. And let me help you, guide you to become the greatest version of yourself. There'll be new expansions coming in soon, so you better get on that list so you're the first to know on it. Lastly, if you are ready to burn the motherfucking boats and go all in on yourself and see who you can become through the 126 to greatness, to cut away everything that doesn't serve you, please message me directly and let's see who you can be. Until then.